Okay guys, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it today. I'm going to make some jelly. I have never made jelly before in my life, but I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to do it in my Fresh Tech hot water bath canner. These are the jars I'm going to be using, half pint jelly jars from Ball, and they come with the rings and the lids, which is really nice. So I'm just going to open up this case of jars and get these washed in warm soapy water, and when I get that done I'll be back and we will do the next step together. Okay, so I have my jars washed, and they're over on the other counter, and don't mind my eggs that I need to wash, but I'm going to be making mango nectar jelly, and I hope this works. I know that you can make jelly with fruit juice that is unsweetened and has nothing but juice in it, and this is pretty much that. It does for some reason have a little bit of added sugar, but on the ingredient list it's kind of low down on the list, so I'm thinking there's not that much added sugar to it. So I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway and see what happens. I asked a couple of questions from a YouTuber that does a lot of canning, and they never got back to me. So I'm just going to do it, and if it doesn't turn out, we'll have mango syrup to eat on our pancakes. I mean, what could it really hurt to try, right? And I'm going to be using this Sure-Gel, the low sugar kind, for a couple of different reasons. I want to reduce the calories in the jelly, and also sugar is not exactly cheap, especially the organic sugar, which is what I use. And I feel like if you don't use the low sugar, you basically do cup for cup. Like, I'm going to be using 6 cups of the juice, and you'd have to use 6 cups of sugar, and I just like, that is just way more sugar than I want to use and consume in my diet. So I'm going to use the low sugar Sure-Gel. So the first thing you need is 6 cups of juice. So let me get you set up on the tripod and we'll move on with this process. Speaking of eggs that need to be washed, look at all of those. That's just from a couple of days. It is a never-ending job washing these eggs. I don't know if I'll get to it today or not. So the first thing you need to do before you even start heating the juice is you need to get the canner prepped. And I've got the canning rack in the bottom. And then what you do is you have to preheat your jars. So you put the jars in on the rack, and then you just fill the canner with water, hot or warm water from the tap, until it's an inch above the top of the jars. You put water in the jars, and you fill it to an inch above the jars. It has to be, the water has to be at least an inch above the jars in order to process correctly. So I'm just going to go ahead and get these jars put in here. And then once you get the water in, you want to put the hot water in from the tap, just because it makes the process faster, the process of heating the water faster. So I'm doing extra jars. The recipe says it will fill 6 jelly jars, but I put a couple extra in here just in case, and also because, you know, to kind of take up space in the canner. So I'm going to go ahead and get my water going. I'm going to fill the jars. Yeah, my spray is pitiful. I need a new kitchen sink or kitchen faucet and sprayer combo. There's always something you need, right? Always. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get these jars filled. Sorry about that. The kids are outside working in the yard and the dogs are going crazy. But anyway, I'm going to get these filled and this canner filled, and you put the heat dial on medium. And when I get this all done, I'll be back. Okay, there you go, guys. That is covered. The jars are covered and filled. So I'm going to turn my Fresh Tech to medium high, so halfway between medium and high. Put the lid on it and let those do their thing while we get the filling or the jelly ready. Okay, so I've got my big cast iron stock pot that I'm going to use, and I've got the lids and the rings simmering in that water over there. I don't know if that step's necessary or not. I see some people that can do it that way and some don't, so I thought better safe than sorry. I'll just do it that way. And I've got 6 cups of juice here, and I'm using the recipe for grape jelly that is in the Fresh Tech book, which is a ball book because the Fresh Tech canners by ball. And it says 6 cups of juice and 8 tablespoons of pectin. Now that's classic pectin, but I'm assuming that it doesn't really matter if it's the low sugar or the classic. Then it calls for 6 cups of sugar. So I am going to use 6 cups of nectar here. I pour it in the pot. Okay, so now I'm going to get this going on medium-high heat. And I was completely confused as to how much pectin to use. So I had to go down and do a little research on the computer just to make sure that I was right. Because I was thinking I would only need to use 1 box of the Sure Gel, but 1 box only has 4 tablespoons. And the recipe for this says 8 tablespoons. But I didn't know if it meant if I just use regular classic pectin or if it was the same for the low sugar variety. So I'm just going to assume it's the same for both. Hopefully it turns out. So I'm getting this warmed up and I'm going to add the pectin to the juice. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the pectin in this bowl, and then I'm going to add a little bit of sugar to it. I was watching Heather from the Needy Homesteader, and she always adds a little bit of the sugar to the pectin before she adds it to the juice. So since I'm using the low sugar variety of pectin, I'm going to only put 4 cups of sugar in this instead of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and add like a half a cup of sugar to the pectin and then add that to the mix here. So let me get my sugar. And I use, like I said, I use organic sugar. So, since I'm using 4 cups of sugar altogether, once this comes to a boil that can no longer be stirred down, I will add another 3.5 cups of sugar. So that's thoroughly mixed. And I'm going to go ahead and add this to the pot here. And stir that together. And I'll just put the rest of the sugar in this bowl. So I'll just go ahead and keep stirring this until it comes to a boil that I can no longer stir down, and at that point I'll bring you back and show you what happens next. Okay guys, I kind of goofed up with the camera. I thought I was videoing and I wasn't. So this had come to a boil that I could not stir down, and I added the sugar. I added 3.5 cups of sugar, And so then you just keep stirring this till the sugar is completely dissolved and it comes back to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, you boil it for 1 minute and then you remove it from the heat. So sorry about that, guys. I thought the camera was on video and it was actually on picture. So I took a couple of pictures, but I didn't video anything. But you didn't miss a whole lot. You just missed me pouring the sugar in, so not a big deal. Alright, when this is at the rolling boil point, and it has boiled for a minute, we'll be back. Okay, so it is at a rolling boil, and I just set the timer for 1 minute. So we just keep stirring this for 1 minute. And once you take it off the heat, you can do what they call a spoon test, where you take a metal spoon and see if the jelly, once it cools, if it gels, if it's gelling on the spoon. And I'll give it a try. Now I've noticed from just this rubber spatula, when I pull it out of the liquid for any amount of time, it looks to me like it's gelling. So hopefully this worked. Okay, so there's the 1 minute. Shut the heat off. And I'll get a spoon. I don't know. Yeah, look at it. You can see it's gelling on there on the spoon. As soon as it cools a bit, it gels. Okay, let me give it a taste. That is delicious. Okay, so now I have to get my station set up over here to fill the jars, and I'm going to have to try to get this going here in kind of in a hurry so my jelly mixture doesn't cool off too much. So let me get you set up on the tripod again and get this area over here ready to go. So I've got 2 jars out of the bath canner while they're hot. This is a trick I also learned from Heather, where you have 2 jars going at the same time to kind of keep from having too much of a mess. And I'm already making a mess. Now it says to fill it within 1/4 of an inch of headspace, and to be quite honest, I have no clue what that is. So I've got this little dealie, and I guess you're supposed to, I don't even know how to use it. Okay, so that would be 1 inch, so 1/4 of an inch. I guess I'd come up to this first line on this thingamajigger. I don't know. I'm so clueless. I don't know if it really makes a difference, really, if it's just a matter of looks. I have no idea. Someone tell me what the difference is, why it matters, the headspace. And I got this towel here because I've been warned that doing jelly is kind of a messy job. And I can tell already it is because I drip. And I don't have a decent ladle. I mean, I don't have a regular canning ladle. So I have to just make do with what I have. I've got it on my wish list on Amazon. Alright, I'm going to get another jar out. I'm using my tongs to get the jars out of the hot water. Okay, I think that's about right. So then I've got some vinegar in this bowl here, probably more than I'm going to need, but live and learn. And you wipe the top and the threads of the jars to make sure you get all the sticky off of them, and so that they'll seal up really well. I've heard this is like the most important step in canning, is to wipe the edges. Okay, so then I got my little magnet doodle here, and put the lid on, and then you put it fingertip tight. Ouch! Okay, yeah, I forgot. Stick my hand in the hot water, yeah. Okay, so then you use this little doohickey to put these back in the canner. So I'm going to go do that. See, can you tell I've never done jelly in my life, and I haven't canned anything in 20 years, so yeah. So I got that. I'm going to get another jar out of the canner. And I'll show you one more time my inability to do a very good job. Am I being too hard on myself? Maybe a little. I need to scoot this closer because I drip it everywhere. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with it gelling. It seems to be pretty thick already. Guess that's good enough. Oh, Pepper. See what I put up with every day? Okay, so I got that, and then again you take the paper towel with vinegar and wipe the edges, and you can see got a lot off of there because I'm messy. This is pretty hot, but I can hold the jar without scalding myself. Now I wouldn't want to stick my finger down in there, that's for sure. Need another paper towel for the next ones. Okay, so use my magnet, Cheryl, not your fingers. Get the metal stuff out of there. This little magnet thingamajigger is cool. I never had this when I canned before. Honestly, don't even remember how I got this stuff out of the hot water. Probably a fork. If I remember right, I used a fork. That's the way my mom always did it. She never had any of the fancy stuff either. In fact, if she was still alive, she'd probably roll her eyes when if I showed her my gadgets that I have. Although I think she did have something to get the hot jars out of the canner, because you pretty much can't get them out without something like this, a tool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get these in the canner and get the rest of this jelly jarred up, and when I'm ready to show you the next step, we'll be back. So I got eight jars out of that jelly, or the juice. So I'm going to get the last two jars in the canner. And also need to mention I added 1/4 of a cup of white vinegar to the canner. That's just to prevent any clouding on the jars. Okay, and there's one empty jar in here, that I'm just going to leave, I think. And these keep falling over, so I'm going to have to, maybe I'll take that one out. I don't know. I think I am going to take this one out. I know sometimes you can can them with the empty ones in there just to keep the jars from rattling around too much. But let me set this one down in there. And I'll make sure these are all sitting up properly. I don't know why they lean over. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, so then the next thing you have to do is put this thing in there. And this is called the, let me get my steaming and diffuser rack. You set this down on top of the jars. Maybe better use this because I don't want to burn myself. You just set it down on top of the jars. And maybe that holds the jars in place. Oh, I don't know. I'm so, don't know what I'm doing. Okay. So, once all the jars are filled and positioned inside the canner, turn the dial to the canning mark. Put that on canning. Gotta put the lid on it, obviously. Okay, and so once this comes to a boil, then I start my timer and you can it for 10 minutes. So when the 10 minutes is up, I'll be back and I'll show you my finished product. Okay, so the 10 minutes is up, and I actually processed it for more than 10 minutes because I wasn't sure. This is the first time I've used this pot, and I wasn't sure what they meant by a boil. I mean, I know what a boil is, but I set my timer before it was really boiling hard, and then a few minutes later I heard it in here boiling, and it was like really vigorously boiling, so I thought, oh, that's probably what they meant by bringing it to a boil. So I went ahead and set the timer at that point for 10 minutes. So it's probably went for about 14 minutes maybe on a high boil. So then the directions said to turn the pot off and unplug it from the wall, take off the lid and let it sit for 5 minutes. And once the 5 minutes is up, I'm supposed to drain the pot with this spigot here before removing the jars. Okay, so the timer's up, the 5 minutes is up, and I've got this spigot as close to the sink as I can get it. So hopefully it's going to drain. It's going to make a mess, so I'm going to have to drain this into a pitcher and then dump it in there because I've got this lip here on my sink and I can't get the canner any closer to my sink. So let me get this all drained out and then we'll be back. I'm still draining the water out of it and I've already heard 3 of them pop, so that's pretty cool. Look at that pretty color. I don't know if it's coming up on here or not very well. It's gorgeous. There we go, guys. 8 half pints of mango jelly. I think that it turned out really well if it sets. Now the stuff that was in the pot, the leftover bit that we scraped out of the pot, was very jellied. So once these cool, we'll know for sure whether I did it right. But from what I can tell now, I think I did. So anyway, this was kind of fun, a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think I can do it. I think this is something I can do. So I'll be back with you and let you know at some point how many of my jars sealed and how it all turned out. Thanks a lot for coming along with me on this journey of my first experience canning jelly and my first time using my Fresh Tech hot water bath canner as a canner. And I had a good time, and hopefully you had a good time watching this video. If you're a seasoned canner and you know what you're doing, and if you have any helpful tips or pointers you can give me, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. I love to learn, and I definitely know I can learn more about this canning business. So thanks a lot for watching, friends, and we will talk to you later. Bye!